Welcome back to another episode of Blind Boys Politics. Chris, how are we doing tonight?
Amazing.
Yeah, because yet again, it's kind of normal now, but we're recording at night once again, y'all.
It wouldn't be this late at night if someone didn't fall asleep.
I am sorry, okay?
You know what? I just want everyone to know. We want to have an episode this week if I didn't wake him up. Because if I fell asleep, we want to have an episode.
He didn't wake me up, guys. He's lying to you.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, are you sure?
I didn't hear your call at all, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Should I read the text message that I got from you less than 1 minute later?
I said, sorry, bro, I was asleep.
Plus more. So I woke you up. And if I would have fell asleep, you would have slept through the entire night.
No. You didn't wake me up at all, dude.
I don't give
I promise you.
You're giving me the credit.
I am not giving you the credit.
The fans are.
No. No one's going to give you credit.
Because you know what would have happened if I fell asleep? You would have woke up. You would have called me. It probably would have woke me up, but I wouldn't answer. I would fall right back to sleep.
I woke up on my own at that time, sir.
We're referring to the time where I fall asleep, and then you call me, and I don't wake up.
Oh my God, you're hopeless. Anyway, guys, let's...
No, you are.
But anyway, let's just jump into this, because clearly I'm not going to wake this kid up from his delusional fantasies.
We are now offering this beautiful new service. It's almost as beautiful as me. Because I came up with the idea.
Right.
So we have this little thing called Twitter. If you DM us on our Blind Boys Politics account on a specific story that you want us to cover, we will cover it in our next available episode. Now, it can't be a small town USA story that little Johnny went into the grocery store and stole a bag of chips. It has to be like a state issue, a country issue,
world issue.
Affects more than 5 people.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you'll be able to find our Twitter in the show notes. So if you just follow the link and you have a good story for us, you can DM us. And if you want a shout out, we're always happy to give that as well.
And you'll be talking to either the glorified Chris Baker or the social media executive boss lady Amina.
Or myself, because I'm also signed in, so.
Doubt you'll ever reply.
No, I would.
But don't reply, because if you reply, it will not be in my notifications anymore. And then if you'll tell me about it and I'm completely forget.
Honesty. Honesty is key. Good job,
I'm completely forget. So I need to see it in my notifications so I can write it down.
Fair enough. So you'll hear from one of those two probably. But yeah, so
But in the meantime,
we got news to cover, Chris.
It's a shorter news week-ish, but there's a lot to talk about.
Very true. And
along with a great analogy put together by the beautiful Chris.
It's quite fascinating, and we will definitely get into that later down the line.
Whoever this Chris person is, he must be the greatest, because all I hear is great things about him, like the beautiful, it's just great.
Guys, this is my life. Every day. Always.
And you wouldn't trade it for a thing. Because you love it.
Oh, yeah.
I provide you comic relief. We provide you so many things.
Oh, my God. But yeah, we do have a lot to talk about this week. And, a lot of it comes from familiar topics that we've talked plenty about in the past. And the first one we've got is TikTok. It's back.
Well, just to start off, I hate to break it to you, but the November 12th ban is still in effect.
Yeah, Chris, that is true. I mean, it's definitely not even that simple though, because this is definitely, this is still in the courts. Right now, there are two federal judges involved in the case, and there are two federal, or yeah, there are two executive orders on top of that that are affecting TikTok.
The first one is that remember in mid-September when we were talking about how um you, if you don't already have the app downloaded, you wouldn't be able to download it and there would be no more updates available, and how the judge ruled in TikTok's favor and not allowing that to happen. Well, after that happened, the Trump administration appealed it. So that's fun.
Oh yeah. Well, and on top of that, the appeals court has actually accepted the appeal.
So with that being said, the ban is still in effect on November 12th. And then you move into, now that the appeals court has appealed it, that means they have another court date, and that is scheduled November 4th, the day after the election. So on the 4th, they're going to be talking about the appeal, and they're also going to be talking about the ban itself. TikTok is saying that the Trump administration has no proof that they're violating laws. And what this all started from, in case you forgot, is that TikTok is owned by a Chinese business that possibly could be taking information from U.S. consumers.
Right. And the US, of course, hasn't been the only country. The US hasn't been the only country to impose a ban on TikTok and all that. There have been other countries to do the same. Most notably, from my memory, was India. So, there's definitely some tension around the whole thing, and a lot of different people are worried about data stealing and stuff like that.
And if you're wondering, well, what if the sale of ByteDance TikTok goes through before the 12th? Well, negotiations between ByteDance, Oracle, and Walmart have been put on pause.
Yep. So
that's a thing.
that pretty much means that we're not going to see a sale happen before the 12th.
It's in the judge's hands right now, whether or not
yeah, it all comes down to the decision of the courts.
Even though the president does have the authority, because it's a national security threat, he has quite a bit of authority over it. But that, I wonder how that's all going to play out. But we're going to have to wait and see what happens on the 4th.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting case. And, it's like you said, the whole situation is in the judge's hands at this point. It's up to the judge whether TikTok survives or it gets thrown out and it gets banned. But of course, then you got to wonder, since the negotiations have been put on pause, likely because of these cases and stuff like that, will there be an extension to try and make a deal there? These are things we'll just have to watch out for come the 4th.
Well, like you said, we'll find that out on the 4th. But until then, here's what I can tell you. The replenished PPP loan, it didn't pass. If you can't figure it out, the senators are back in D.C. now. It was very close to passing, actually. It was a 57-40 vote. 5 Democrats came across the aisle, voted with the Republicans. They were 3 short of it passing. They only needed 60 for it to pass. So close.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is the closest we've gotten so far to actually getting this through.
Now, the last one was a $260 billion deal specifically for PPP loans. The difference with this one is it was going to be more targeted on what companies get it. Not all can apply for it. But since it was such a close vote on passing, more than likely it will be revisited for another vote.
Right. When things get this close, you got to imagine that, you know, they actually they would want to continue to build this and to continue to bring it back, because if you get that close to passing it, why just let it die? And especially since this whole COVID situation isn't over by any means. So, you know, they're going to want to revisit this, but that's not the only thing they have to visit, and that's not the only thing they have going on, because there's another stimulus bill on the floor, Chris.
Yes, that one was voted on Wednesday, the day of recording. That one didn't pass either. It was a 51-44 vote. This one, same thing, needed 60 to pass.
Now, the most notable thing about this new stimulus package, this new stimulus bill, was that it never involved another stimulus check. So even if it had passed, you wouldn't have been receiving another check anywhere within that.
Now, does this sound familiar to you, Nick? Well, let me tell you why. It sounds familiar because it's very similar to a proposal that went to a vote back in September that never passed. It was very similar. Didn't pass today. It was closer than back in September. We're getting there. We're making progress.
Yeah, no, exactly. Negotiations have actually been moving forward. There was a point in time back in late September, pretty much all through September, where we were reporting that negotiations were going absolutely nowhere. All we saw were all we saw was the Republicans and the Democrats fighting like school children on the playground. But things have kind of turned, in the right direction, and we're actually headed in the right direction, it seems, for now anyway. That involves like the House Speaker and the White House continuing to negotiate past the initial deadline. The House Speaker has said that they're on the path. However, where that path leads to, we still have no idea. We have no idea what's going to happen. We have no idea what's going to pass. At the end of the day, they're still fighting over, amounts of money that will be going into these different bills and stuff like that, and they can't seem to quite agree on numbers. However, with this whole thing, we have a bit of an analogy going on, that Chris has taken the time to create, and I think it describes the whole situation pretty well. So, Chris, wanna get into that a little bit?
Well, I would just love to. Now, since there's like 4 different stimuluses going on right now, it's kind of hard to keep track of them. Like before, we just talked about 3 different ones. There's still another one that we're not talking about because that's not really at a vote right now, so nothing's going on with it. But here's my analogy. So picture you're at an intersection. The bank is right ahead in front of you. There's 4 different cars. There is the House's car, the House in white, the House's car, the House leadership in the White House's car, the Senate's car, and Trump's car. Now, in the House car, they have a $2.2 trillion. It's very similar to the HEROES Act. They just turned left. So then in the other car, with the House leadership in the White House with their $1.8 trillion deal, they are trying to go forward. But every time it's their turn to go through green, the light turns red. So they're trying to get there to the bank, but there's always something in the way, hence the red light. And then you have the Senate and their car. They're so they have their $500 billion stimulus proposal. They just turned right. And then the 4th one is Trump's car. He is stuck at a gas station trying to refuel his car with gasoline because he ran out of gas shortly in front of the pump for him to refuel. I say that one because he wants higher than the $2.2 trillion stimulus, and no one has taken him up on that offer yet. So he's trying to refuel and get gas.
Right. And, obviously the goal here would be for them all to go forward to the bank with no red lights, no detours. They all should be going in, the same direction, but as we can see here, they're all going in completely different directions. None of them are on the same page, and clearly they didn't communicate very well before they left the house.
Now, just because they're all going different directions, that doesn't mean that one of them can loop around to the bank. It's just saying that they're going on a detour, or they're stuck at a red light, or stuck at the gas station.
Right. So it'll be interesting to see, if they can wind up in the same place at the end of the day, actually get on the same page, actually end up in the same destination. And honestly, great analogy by Chris. Good job, sir.
Thank you. I hope it makes sense. I think it made it a little bit more clear, even for myself to understand, because there's just so much going on.
Right. Essentially, it is really easy to grasp what's going on based off this analogy, in my opinion, because, basically you can determine that everyone's going in a different direction. No one's on the same page. No one's heading in the same direction necessarily. And yeah, this analogy really works out.
Yay.
But
Okay.
moving forward, we get into some COVID news.
Not just any COVID news. More specifically, we're talking suburban areas because, yeah, out west, they're having some issues with COVID right now. It kind of gives me flashbacks to New York, Nick.
Yeah, because, back in the early days of this whole virus, New York got pretty ugly there for a while. We had some of the worst numbers at the time, and now it's surging, in a lot of other states right now.
Here's some statistics for you. In the first 100,000 cases of COVID-19, 20% of those cases were from suburban areas. And then the second 100,000, so 200,000 total, 44% was from suburban areas also. Now, there is 4 states right now that have an infection rate above 20%. And those states are South Dakota, Iowa, Idaho, Wisconsin, and South Dakota has the highest infection rate of 37.19%.
Of course, scientists are saying that we want that number to be below 1%. So right now,
They're struggling just
they're struggling just a tad. And that's not all. Some nursing homes and places like that, specifically one we'll mention here, is that in Norton, Kansas, there's a nursing home where all 62 residents have tested positive. And unfortunately and sadly, 10 of those people passed away.
With things going on in the West, we are going to be keeping a close eye with that, I'm sure, along with the New York governor, Andrew Cuomo, because he said in a press conference today that he thinks it is very unlikely that we will have a statewide shutdown again.
Right.
He said that our numbers are between 0.95 and 0.99% infection rate. He said, yes, it's right at the line of 1%, but is nothing to freak out about. It's something we know more about COVID now. We have things under control, and he has a new plan now.
Right. And the plan of action moving forward is to pretty much use like a type of mapping system, like with a color coding system. So it starts out with microclusters, so just little areas where there's problems going on and rises going on. So there are three different colors. Yellow would be, there's a small outbreak starting, indoor dining wouldn't be allowed. You would definitely be advised to take extra precautions. Orange is the next level up from that, and that pretty much means that schools are shut down. And then red would essentially be everything shut down, kind of like it was back in March. Now, the next step up from the microclusters would be regions. So moving a little, into bigger areas. And then eventually, if it gets bad enough, then we could reach a statewide shutdown. But as we said before, Cuomo doesn't see this happening. Um, he believes that we'll be able to stay open as a whole throughout the rest of
Right.
this.
Him and all of his team agree that a statewide shutdown is not something that they're looking at right now. They don't see it happening. They don't anticipate it happening. They think with the microclusters region and then have to be whole state is the way it's going to be run, because right now there's microclusters in Brooklyn and Queens, and that's all under control right now, and there is no signs of it spreading.
Well, and you got to imagine that a statewide shutdown would be one of the last things the governor or anyone else would want, because that's that's an economic worry. That's an economy worry if that were the case. Because if we shut everything down again, then our economy could very well tank. So definitely trying their best to keep everything open, or at least keep as much of the state open as they possibly can, while keeping everyone as safe as possible. So that's just something we'll
Now,
have to continue to watch out for as we move forward as well.
now he was asked by one of the reporters after the press conference. They do the questions. Um, One of them said, "Why do you think your approval rating is so high right now after it seems like not many people were happy with you with this statewide shutdown?" His response was simply that New Yorkers didn't like the shutdown, but they knew it had to be done. I told them what was going on. They listened to me. When I said they needed to wear masks, they listened to me. He said, I this is the first time in any governor's history that I held daily press conferences and had on average 63 million people watching me per day around the world. He said, I'm not surprised that my approval rating's that high. And then he also kind of put in a little jab in there about the last town hall events, that those both didn't even come anywhere near what he was having on the daily. He said that he truly believes that with me being completely honest with them, telling them the way it is, that's what gave me the approval rating that I have.
Right. And I'm sure many would agree with that too, because throughout all this, he has done his best to kind of avoid, beating around the bush and just being very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but, he just has been straightforward for the most part, as
That's
we've
what he's
seen.
best known for from this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Talking about the boyfriend and being straightforward.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what's going on with that whole situation. And as far as the numbers go and the shutdowns go, those are things we'll just have to continue to watch out for, as we move forward, because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. But if you would imagine that if they do continue to manage these micro clusters like they are right now and do this whole map system like they are, those areas that are surging a little bit should be contained pretty well. And hopefully we will never have to go to regional, the regional portion of the map.
That is all we have for this week's news, but it's time to get into Nick's favorite segment, Dumb Laws.
Woot woot. Heck yeah, man. And Chris, you have the privilege of going first this time around.
We are visiting Oregon. Their dumb law is it is illegal to place a container filled with human fecal matter on the side of any highway.
So essentially, you can't crap in a bucket while in the middle of driving and drop it on the side of the highway. It's illegal. I'm sorry, guys.
Mm, I don't understand it because when you're traveling, you don't want to stop. You gotta go when you gotta go.
Okay.
Why don't they understand that?
I mean, I can understand peeing in a bottle. Okay. That happens, when you're, especially when you're on like a multi-day trip and you really don't want to stop anywhere, you really don't want to lose time, or you're in a hurry to get to wherever you're going and it's a long trip. Either way.
Or like me, just lazy.
But like, yeah, or that.
You said
But
that just so elegantly,
oh yeah, absolutely.
so proper. Wow.
But like, why would you ever want to, for lack of a better way of saying it, crap in a bucket in the middle of driving? Or if you're a passenger, just in the car. Why?
The only thing I could see this for is like a young child.
I guess so. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that one. Yeah, I suppose, but it's still just very confusing overall, in my opinion, and I don't see why it has to exist. But well, that concerns me. Um, for mine, we go to Arizona, where it's illegal to for a donkey to sleep in a bathtub. Now, I have some information about this because where I got it from gave a little background. So, in the 1920s, a local dam had broken, had flooded a house, a rancher's house, and for some reason, the rancher's donkey had become accustomed to sleeping in the bathtub. And when the dam broke and flooded the rancher's house, it filled, it filled the house and it filled the tub and kind of whisked him miles away. So after so after working to rescue him, the town ended up passing a law that prohibits donkeys from sleeping in the bathtub, though they did say that it is perfectly fine for them to stand in the bathtub.
Oh, okay. Then I'm let my donkey know that he's okay to stand in it.
How are you supposed to? Oh, I guess you can determine whether it's sleeping or not, but why is it okay for them to stand in the bathtub but not? What?
Because if it's awake, it can run away, dummy.
Can it though? In a
Yeah.
situation like that, where if the flood is reaching the bathtub, how far is that donkey going to be able to go without floating away anyway?
You know, Nick, you asked some good questions. Go visit 1920 and let me know how it goes.
Yeah, I'll invent time travel for this specific case and go back and I'll just relive everything that happened. I will meet that donkey.
Well, Nick, I'm gonna give you a reason to not to travel, time travel, because it is time for some good news. Yeah.
And we're singing again. Okay, folks.
Broad Street, here I come.
Oh boy. But yeah, Chris, this is your favorite segment, of course. Like Dumb Laws is mine. So, what do you have for us this week?
Is that why I'm doing 2 weeks of good news?
Also, because I was sleeping and didn't have time to get a story.
So this week's good news story, it's kind of an interesting story. There was this elderly man that every day he went into this diner, and he wasn't a mean person, he just wasn't the most friendliest person. It got to the point where he just didn't talk to the waitresses that much. He just kind of sat there, ate his lunch, didn't talk. He wasn't a mean person, he just wasn't that friendly. Well, one waitress went so far to refuse to ever serve him, and then on the other side of the spectrum was there was this waitress that every day that he came in, she made it a point to greet him, to, say hi, how you doing, have a conversation to him. Well, this went on for about a year. And so they started talking a little bit, and she said that she was a single mother and, she was struggling to make ends meet. Well, she didn't think anything of it. A couple months went on. He unfortunately passed away. She went to the services, paid her respects. A couple weeks after that, a man came into the restaurant and pulled her aside and wanted to speak to her because he left her his entire estate, left her his house and whatever money he had to support her family in a home that doesn't have a mortgage on it, and also have a little bit of money to decorate it the way that she wanted to.
Wow. That I'm speechless, honestly. Like that's unheard of. That is definitely not something you hear about every day. For for a man who definitely wasn't known for being friendly or sociable, to actually leave his entire estate to her, that's incredible.
Could you imagine you're just working along one day and a lawyer comes in and says, the man that you used to serve every single day left you everything he owns?
No, I wouldn't know what to say. I don't know what to say now. And we're just reading the story. I'm not part of it at all. And I still don't know what to say because that's just there's no words for that.
And
That's incredible.
his wife passed a few years before that, and they had two kids, I do believe, if I remember correctly. And the kids, they both got, I think one of them got the car, and the other one got, like they took their valuables out of the house, pictures and things like that. And they were interviewed on the news, and one of the kids said he was a very quiet man, but for him to do this is not a surprise to anybody in the family whatsoever.
It just goes to show that you really can't. This is going to sound really cliche, but you can't judge a book by its cover, essentially,
That's what I
because
was thinking.
when you think about these types of people, these just kind of unsociable, not so friendly people, you don't expect them to do something like this. But that is huge.
I bet that waitress that refused to serve him was kicking herself that day.
Oh my god, I can't imagine. Like, how do you react as the waitress who got the estate and all that? How do you react to that? What do you say? I'd be in
And then
shock.
for the family to say that's not a surprise whatsoever and we support it 100%, that just shows you the family character as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's, oh my god. I wish I could. I just don't have words for this. I don't
Wouldn't
have
it be
proper
nice
words
if
for
we
this.
could interview that family, Nick?
I would love to. I would
Well,
honestly.
next week on Blind Boys Politics, they're going to be right here.
I wish. But no, I would love to talk to this family and the waitress. I would love to talk to them both because, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
For the first time, guys, out of all these good news stories, after, out of everything we've talked about in the past, I am truly like speechless almost.
Well, since Nick is speechless, I'll be the one to say it. That is an excellent good news story. Some great dumb laws, some news. That is all we have for this week. Don't forget, tomorrow morning we will have the recap of the final presidential debate, what went down then. Monday morning, regular news. Wednesday, our very last field election. And then we'll be right back here Friday morning.
Yep, so pretty straightforward schedule. We definitely hope that you guys are with us every step of the way, as always. And again, as said at the beginning, if you want to follow us on social media and if you want to give us a story to cover, Make sure to follow the links in the show notes and send those stories to the Blind Boys Politics account. And if you want to follow our personal accounts, those are there as well. We try to post some entertaining, sometimes philosophical posts.
Mm-hmm.
And besides that, that's all we got, guys.
All right. See you tomorrow morning.
See you guys.